Well, hello everyone. I wanted to begin this week's video announcement by telling you about the link to our worship service for this coming Sunday. While in-person worship will happen as normal, as I will be here leading worship and preaching, our online worship link will take you to the worship service of Peace Lutheran Church in Ashland, Ohio. This is where my wife, Pastor Karen Liddy, serves. We are sending you this link because I am not recording an online worship for this coming Sunday. As last Sunday, the people of peace joined our church. We're sort of doing this swap off to give my wife and I both a break for a few days from video taping and editing for each week's service. However, our in-person worships will continue to be the same. As we look forward in our worship, we know that Reformation is coming, and this Reformation service will be a little bit different than the ones in the past, in that not only because it's a pandemic, but also we are going to celebrate the affirmation of baptism, our confirmation service, to those students who are due to be confirmed in the spring. So it'll be very important for that day that you RSVP ahead of time, because seating will be more limited that Sunday as we try to get those confirmation family space in our sanctuary. Included in this link is the newest link, hopefully, to the Acts study that we are doing each Sunday after our in-person worship. I plan to upload that the first part of the week. Also, following this announcement will be our stewardship video, as we show it twice each year. Appreciate you so much already sending in your intention of giving for 2021. Those cards are so helpful for us in the budgeting process. We thank you for participating and giving to the church and to God. As we begin to work on other parts of 2021, we are looking for people to serve in various roles, and particularly in the ministry of fellowship, the fellowship board. We usually have 2 people chair that, and we are still in need of folks to express an interest to that. Now, of course, during this pandemic, that role will be very limited, but if you may be interested in serving it for 2021, please let me know as soon as possible. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care, dear church. "2020. How many times we thought about this year? When we began the year 2020, I was thinking in terms of a congregational 2020 vision and what things we'd be able to tackle and do as a community of faith. Little did any of us know that this is what we would be facing. I have a hunch that this year's New Year's Eve is going to be a dandy, as I think many of us are looking forward with open arms to the year 2021. It certainly has been a year of trials and many challenges, details of which I do not need to get into here. But we certainly know there's been cultural unrest in our country, another cycle of presidential politics, all this amidst a world pandemic. When we look at our ministry here at CRLC, the thought that kept coming to my mind, the phrase is 2 words: and yet. Here we are in the midst of a worldwide virus, and yet we have been an active community of faith. Here we are, not able physically to gather as normal for many months, and yet we've been able to connect online. We finally, back in July, were able to have in-person worship for small gatherings that has to be socially distanced and does not allow singing out loud. And yet we worship God. Here we are with many being without the sacrament of Holy Communion, and yet we are able to have a parking lot Vesper service to provide that service. Who would have guessed we'd ever have a service like that at the beginning of this year? And many of you are still in the communion of fast. Many are still waiting, but yet we've had opportunities to encounter Christ. All this occurred and impacted our worship life, which is the lifeblood of our congregation. And yet, we've been able to be together as disciples of Christ. When we think about particular areas of ministry in our church, we've undoubtedly been impacted by this virus. Sunday school, Bible and book study groups, youth gatherings, and our normal fellowship events have all suffered because of this virus. And yet, through Zoom meetings, through virtual coffee hours, through virtual learning, through socially distanced small gatherings, through your phone calls to one another, we have still sought to be the church. We began the year off with a great start, even having a summit of our leadership boards to talk about what we hope to see in the future here at our church. We entered into the season of Lent, with wilderness being our theme, not knowing that when we did so, we were about to embark on a wilderness that none of us had ever faced before. In those early days, we certainly were in the wilderness. We are still in the wilderness, and it looks like we're going to be in that wilderness for quite a little while yet. But we have been the church. Right before we had ceased to be able to gather for in-person worship, we decided for a service project this year that we would gather articles of clothing once again to help other people in need. And despite being apart, we literally were able to collect thousands of articles of clothing and pass them on to other agencies to help other people in need. Throughout the pandemic, we have collected food items for our partner in ministry, Oasis in Akron, and we can continue to collect those non-perishable items, and they have touched the lives of many. We collect items for their new Project Harmony House, a halfway house for young women that impacts their lives and others around them. This is a very real and concrete way in which you have made a difference. We have not been able to worship as normal, and yet not only have you given to this church, not only of your time and your prayers, but also your finances. You have been the church in the world, and we are grateful. Your monetary donations have made a difference in this time, not only for the usual running of things at the church that keeps things going, but it also makes a difference in your giving to God. It has enabled things like church mailings to happen, that we can do limited visitations, make those phone calls. It allows us to put together an online worship, to maintain salaries for our staff, and donate to other agencies like Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, and give our benevolence dollars to our synod, which is then passed on as well to our wider church, which touches people all over the world. It is because you have chosen, even in the midst of these hard times, to remember the first fruits of God's given grace and God's given resources that we've been blessed to be in ministry together. You may be curious to know where we stand financially as a church in this unique time. I can tell you that our giving has definitely been impacted by COVID, but we still have received much of our planned giving in dollars. Not quite 100%, but a high percentage. And we are on a good trajectory. This, coupled with a significant decrease in spending because of the virus and the ability to get a PPP loan, is moving us toward a fiscal year that should end very solidly in the black. So now we look to 2021. We obviously do not know what will unfold, but we do ask for your continual support with prayer, with your hands and feet, carrying out God's mission in this place, and thirdly, once again, your financial resources. You've hopefully all by now received in a regular mail a letter detailing our 2021 planning that included an estimate of giving card. We are asking that you return that card to the church office by October 18th. This will help inform us as we are already about the budget process for 2021. We know that not everyone is in a position to be able to support things as normal because of the economic strains of things going on around us with the virus. And we certainly understand all that. And please do not feel guilty about that. But for those who are able, we are so grateful for your participation and help. May God continue to be with us as we face these times, as we continue in our praising God and serving others. Take care, dear church.